All right, quickly, I want to go through your getting the syntax right for the if-then statement, and I want you to do it exactly this way. So I did for you in class, if, this is the syntax for an if-then statement. If, now we're going to check, a condition has to happen. In cell D3, I have the die, but I need or. If the die is equal to 1 or 2, this is the syntax for checking whether the die is equal to 1 or 2, then I want it to do something. I want it to make the x value be cut in half because wherever from the previous. So the previous x value was in cell E2. I would like to make the new x value E2 divided by 2 because that's halfway. And because the point was labeled 0, I didn't go anywhere side to side on that first label. I can actually just cut that point in half. The previous point, wherever it was on the x-axis, I'm just going to cut that in half. Or the die could be 3 or 4. So I'm going to hit enter and type if again, because I'm checking for the second possibility, or the die could be 3, or the die could be 4. And in this case, I want it to do something different. I want it to go halfway between the x value of the point labeled 3 or 4, which is 5.77. Put a parenthesis here. We didn't do this on our drum heads, but the x value is 5.77. I'm going to take the previous point, x point, and then I'm going to cut that in half. That's how I cut it in half. Or the other possibility is I'm going to have you actually do another if statement. You don't need to, but I just want to keep things clean. I could have that the die was 5 or the die was 6, and then the halfway point would be 2.89. That's the x value of that point that's labeled 5 or 6 on our original drum head, plus the previous point halfway. All right, so that's all the possibilities I have. In fact, I could put anything here as my end. Let's put error so that it checked through all the possibilities and there's some weird possibility. So what this tells me is if the die is 1 or 2, then go halfway between whatever my previous point was and the point labeled 1, 2. If the die was 3 or 4, and what I mean by point is just a cross value, the x value. If the die was 3 or 4, then go from my previous point, which is E2, to halfway to the point labeled 3 or 4. Halfway would be, the halfway mark would be 5.77 plus my previous point divided by 2 because of where I am, where that 3, 4 is located. The last one is the furthest along on the triangle. The last possibility is that the die was a 5 or 6, and then the top of the triangle, the x value is 2.89. So take my previous point halfway to that 2.89, and the way I do that is I add those two together and divide by 2. Otherwise, there's no other possibility. So if you put a 7 or something else here that doesn't make sense, we're going to have it say spit out an error. Now I have to close all the parentheses, so I have to track everything. So here, I'm going to put my first parentheses that needs to be closed is this if statement. So I'm going to put a parenthesis here, and that makes sure that these two are closed. And then I have to close this parenthesis. So there's one more parenthesis here that closes this one. And then there's a last parenthesis up here. So you should have 3 parentheses, and I put spaces here so you can see them. That's all I want you to do. I want you to save this notepad so the next time you come here, you can plug it in and scroll it down.